Sit back and relax this holiday season and watch your Platinum Rewards Visa from Freedom Federal Credit Union earn you 4 times the points on video streaming subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, and more. You'll also earn 3 times the points on restaurants, takeout, even catering, plus 2 times the points on gas and groceries. As our gift to you, we will throw in a bonus of 2,500 points with your first purchase. Find out more about Freedom's Platinum Rewards Visa at freedomfcu.org.
There are a lot of great podcasts out there, and one of the things that I've been doing is recommending a podcast at the end of each episode. So make sure you stay tuned to the very end, because I guarantee you the podcast I recommend you're going to love. When you lose a child, the grieving never ends. It goes on, and the holidays are probably the worst time. The day that you lost your child is also a very bad time. For me and my wife, it was June 23rd of 2000. That's when we lost our first daughter. She was stillborn. I've had friends who have lost a child on Christmas. It's very hard. And on this episode, we held a roundtable discussion with parents that have lost a child, whether it be somebody that was stillborn, died of addiction, tragic accident, or a piece of furniture falling over on them. These are the stories of those people that have lost a child and talking about the grieving.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Harford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Come on,
You're faster than me.
Guys.
That was quick. We've been
I got a
together.
fake on mine. 24th and 13th.
Oh, man, you already said it. I was going to ask her if she remembered the date. We have a big round table, or as the other Rich here said, square table, rectangle, whatever you want. We got a lot of people sitting around the table today. We're going to be talking about child loss and about the Brandon Tolson Foundation. So first, I want everybody to go around and introduce yourselves. And we'll start to the left, and everybody's going to know who she is right away because you've heard her on here several times.
Hi, I'm Wendy Beck, and I work with Rich in co-hosting some of the podcasts, and I'm with Rage Against Addiction.
Hi, my name is Patrice Bullock, and I am here just to talk.
I'm Carri Mcquerrey-Funk, and I'm with Maddie's Message.
All right, say your last name again so people don't know that you cursed yet.
I didn't curse.
I know, but I just want to make sure
Carri
people know that.
Mcquerrey-Funk. I've yet to say a bad word, and I'm with Maddie's Message.
I'm Pam Long, and I'm with the Brandon Tolson Foundation.
I'm Heather Matricciani, and I am one of the moms from the Brandon Tolson Foundation.
My name's Julie Blood, and I am one of the parents of the Brandon Tolson Foundation.
I'm Richard Blood, and I'm one of the parents from the Brandon Tolson Foundation.
Why do I feel like I'm watching To Tell the Truth or something? Some of you are too young to remember what that
the Brandon
was.
Tolson Foundation?
Who's not?
Oh, yes, you have to, too. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Candi Tolson. I am the president of the Brandon Tolson Foundation.
All right, well, and we're going to start with you.
Okay.
So to explain to everybody what the Brandon Tolson Foundation is and how it came about.
Okay. The Brandon Tolson Foundation started very quickly after we lost Brandon in a car accident about 6 years ago. And when we lost him, we had what I would consider massive support. And it got us through. Brandon was a cool kid. I mean, not any cooler than anybody else's kid, but we felt like we couldn't let his life end on the bypass, which is where we lost him. So we decided to just do something good. Like, we got to do something good. We just felt that urge. And it was actually my husband's idea. And I said, okay. And we did this. We did this thing. We started it. We knew we had lots of people at our fingertips that would be very helpful in doing this. So we wanted to utilize that, and we just got the ball rolling, and we help families. We help families really it's not not an all-inclusive list. It's whatever our families need. We start with finances, obviously, because that's the first thing our families need. And if there is a need, then we help take care of that. And then beyond that, we follow with our families in the journey of child loss. And that is, it's so different for every person, really. A lot of people need, like counseling and therapy and things like that, and we have those resources as well. But we also share the walk, and that's broad, I know, but we walk with our families. We gather together. We do events together. We've done so many different things. We have a glass infusionist for people who have cremation ashes, and we help with that piece. It's
glass
really
infusionist?
It's really cool.
You have to explain what that is. It's not the same as people that blow the glass, is it? Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
It kind of is, yeah. We based the foundation off of our journey to begin with. So Brandon was cremated, and while we were figuring out what to do, it was like the urn conversation. And for us, we were like, okay, and then the funeral director, weirdly, guided us to the internet. She said, don't pick that here. Go to the internet. So when we went online, we started which was really cool. I was really thankful for that. And of course, when you go online, there's everything is available. And we found this glass sculpture that it was a wave, and Brandon was a beach guy, so it fit. And she puts the ashes in the glass.
Oh, wow.
And it's super cool. I wish you could really see the thing, but and for us, it was just so cool. He's in the living room in the wave. It works for us. And we've had we've made bowling ball glass things for ashes.
Really?
A guitar we did, and that's just one tiny thing, but it was something that we loved, and so we wanted to share it. So that's
but it's
just
something
kind
that
of the
he
idea.
loved too.
Yeah,
which makes it even more special. I like that.
It's really cool. So
wow.
Yeah, we just really wanted to help other people. It's as simple as that. It's as basic as just helping others and turning something really awful into something good.
Right. And you guys are a 501c3, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell everybody the website so they know where to go to donate.
We are at BrandonTolsonFoundation.org.
Well, that was easy.
And can I ask, what is the mission statement?
Can I look that up?
Of course.
He doesn't have good internet. You're not going to be able to look it up.
No.
No.
Yeah, feel free. Anybody chime in at any time.
Supporting families after tragic or sudden loss of a child. Something like that.
Okay.
Which is a very broad statement.
Yeah. But it's
very broad.
Yeah, I was just curious.
The Brandon Tolson Foundation was established to provide support, both personal and financial, to families who have experienced the sudden and tragic loss of a child. Born out of the loss of their son Brandon, the foundation, led by Candi and John Tolson, is committed to helping other unprepared families through the indescribable pain and agonizing process of a child's death. BTF assists families with financial support, funeral expenses, lost wages, medical expenses, fundraising efforts without fees to the families, therapists, support groups, and more.
Wow.
Yeah, we are honoring Brandon's legacy of "Don't Waste Your Life," which was just kind of like his mantra, as we support families through all aspects of their grief journey. So it's a lot of words, but
I mean, I like that. It's a lot of words, but it's getting the point across everything that you guys do. Which is important because you look at some things, the mission statement is very short, and then they're doing different things. Mm-hmm. But I like that.
Yeah.
So with Brandon, tell us this: how old was he when because you said it was an accident, car accident, right? How old was he?
He was 20.
20.
Yep. Just starting out his his career, really. He was working with a company that he had just started with friends, and he was going to Walmart to have keys made for his office.
Oh God.
And that's how that happened. But yeah, I'm just a really vibrant person. And again, I don't like to really brag because I feel like all of our kids are really special, and people would tell you that. People that knew Brandon were like, this kid was like, he was a great kid. And he really kind of lived, like, looking back after things happened, we were like, it was almost like he knew, because he lived on the edge. He did the things in life that were exciting and pushed it to the limits, sometimes without common sense, but he lived in a don't waste your life kind of attitude.
Right. Where did he go to school at? It wasn't North Hartford.
Bel Air.
Okay. Wow. And so one thing you said, that you guys got a lot of support right away, right? Mm-hmm. Which, and I know that's not the case for a lot of people.
It's not.
Back then, especially years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the foundation, you're also providing support, which is something that's much needed, especially here in Hartford County. And Wendy and I talked about that before, with Rage, because of the same thing. And it was hard to find any support around that. So I want to say thank you for starting the foundation. And I just, the glass infusionist.
I don't even know why it's amazing.
No, but that is really so cool. I've
Yeah.
never heard of that. And when you mentioned the guitar and the wave and all that, because the only other thing I've heard of with ashes was, when one of my best friends died, he always wanted to be buried at sea, or his ashes at sea. But then he found something where they can put it into the coral reef.
Yes, we did hear of that when we were.
And that's what he did now, that's what they did within there, which I thought was pretty cool too. I never heard of that. And there are so many different things now that they didn't have back then. So, Patrice.
Yes.
All right, tell your story, because I heard of yours when it happened, and it just, correct me, 2019, 2020?
Actually, it's 2021, so
it was 2021?
May 12, 2021.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, my story is a little unique, and hopefully I can get through this without crying.
It's okay to cry.
On Wednesday, May the 12th, Bailey, of course, he attended John Carroll High School. He was home. He was doing homeschool because of COVID. And he would then go to John Carroll for his after-school activities. So this one particular day, it was Wednesday. It was sunny. Everything was just like perfect. You could see the smile on his face. Right. So we do have a spare car that was in the garage. And Brianna, my twin daughter, she was home from college. So Bailey wanted to drive to John Carroll. I was like, Bailey, you know you cannot drive. He says, well, Brianna's here. I says, well, but she's not 21. He says, well, she's 20 3/4.
Okay.
He was like, well, she's 20 3/4 because, her birthday was just like 2 weeks away from May 12th. And I was like, she can drive you to John Carroll, but you're not driving. He was like, okay. And he was just like smiling. He was just like glowing. He says, well, can I just back the car out of the garage? And I was like, sure. So the car was parked like so crooked that he couldn't like maneuver out of the garage. And then my truck was like blocking him in. So I was like super patient with him. And looking back, I'm like so thankful that we really had a good, final, positive last moment. So I didn't move my truck, but I says, okay, let me show you how to do it. And I pulled the car out. But then I pulled the car back into the garage, like in the same exact position, and says, now this is what you need to do to pull it out. And he was like, okay. And he did it. And he was like so super excited. It's almost like he was glowing.
Yeah.
So he pulled the car out, and then I says, well, Brie, because everything to Bailey was either like a Bran, a Brie, or a Ben. So I says, well, we will now take you to school. He was like, okay. So as soon as Brianna hopped into the car to pull off, here comes Benjamin. And that's Bailey's older brother. So he was like, oh, Ben is here. And I'm like, so he was like, and Ben,
he's old enough, right?
Yeah, he was like, yeah. So he jumped in the driver's seat, and he looked at me like, I got it, kind of a thing. And he drove off, and, just like a positive moment. So he was at practice, and he called. It was probably around 4:50 to say, hey, Mom, I'm ready. I says, okay, Ruby will be there to get you. He was like, okay. So I'm like on the phone. Of course, it was in the middle of COVID, trying to help like another family who had their own medical emergency.
Oh, wow.
Where their family member was probably this far from dying. And so when I received the call from John Carroll, I was like, okay, medical emergency. And, by me being in the medical field, I was like, they got it. They know what they're doing. No big deal.
Right.
So I started, then driving up to University, Upper Chesapeake. And it's like as I'm driving, I felt as though it was just a long drive. And I'm like, okay. So it's like I'm preparing myself.
You could feel
but
something was wrong.
Yeah, but I just wasn't sure what I was preparing myself for.
Right.
But it so happened that Bree actually was at the school, and she's calling Bailey's number, and Bailey's not answering, and she's seeing the crowd, but she's not really thinking it's Bailey. And she's like texting, Bubbles not answering. We call him Bubbles. We have so many different names for him. It all depends on how we feel on that particular day. And, I think as Bree got closer, she realized that it was Bailey.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
What do you do when you feel stuck as an entrepreneur?
There's one thing every single entrepreneur eventually finds out.
And that's that being an entrepreneur is hard.
That's why I've combined my most successful business strategies and some of my biggest failures to help you get started or get to that next level as an entrepreneur. I'm Devin, and this is the Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast, where I give straightforward advice to fuel the entrepreneur in all of us. This is real, practical business advice
without any fluff.
This is the Whiteboard Entrepreneur Podcast. Subscribe today to succeed as an entrepreneur at home and in life.
Man. He was at cardiac arrest, right?
Right. So Bailey was 16. He had just finished a 200-meter track and field event. And similar to what Candi said, Bailey just thought he was like untouchable, the superstar. At times he thought he was like the only person on the team, they really needed him to make the team, right? Mm-hmm. So he had just finished a 200-meter practice event. And actually one of his greatest competitor, after speaking with the guy, Bailey literally said, I'm going to beat you today. And that was the day Bailey, because Bailey was just super competitive.
Right.
And that was the day that he took one for the team.
Wow. Yeah, but he didn't have any underlying conditions or anything, right?
So when he was a teenager, well, not a teenager, but early on, so probably at around 12 or so, he had one episode of, I'm going to say supraventricular tachycardia, which basically means that the heart sort of like went into overdrive, where his heart rate, I think it went up to like 200 and something.
Whoa!
Yeah. So actually I can remember being home that day, and Bailey said, Mom, I'm having palpitations. And he was just so super young. But I'm like, you don't know what palpitations are.
Right.
And he was like, no, seriously, I'm having palpitations. So we took him to Upper Chesapeake, and they they ambulanced him to University, the main hospital. And they actually tried to cardiovert him, basically to... They actually first placed him on medications, and then they stopped the medicine and tried to cardiovert him. But then his heart wouldn't go back in that same rhythm, so they weren't able to elicit the same response. So he was taking medications, for quite some time in regards to that, but at some point, it was determined that the medication was no longer needed, that he was stable.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long was he doing track and field?
So that was his second year. So he actually played football, basketball, and track and field. And of course, one of the reasons why he wanted to do track and field, he felt he was a wide receiver. And yes, he was a wide receiver.
He was very athletic.
Extremely athletic.
Wow.
I mean, to me, Bailey was my NFL on a Sunday. Just,
yeah.
Yes. Yes. I mean, and that he knows that's exactly how we treated him. To us, he was just like our little superstar. Always will be. And he wanted to, I guess, be much more of a sprinter since he's in that wide receiver position. Yeah. And he felt as though track and field would get him there. But not only that, prior to Bailey going to John Carroll, he actually attended Patterson Mill. So when they do have like the turkey trots and things like that, he was there.
He was always involved.
He was always involved. Extremely competitive, but his kind of competitive nature, you wouldn't know he was competing with you. He was like a silent competitor. And, his teammates, that's pretty much, what they all had to say in regards to Bailey. He led by example. He was a role model, but a silent competitor.
And didn't they just do, was it like a run or something for him, didn't they?
Yes. So right after, I usually say Bailey going away. I'm still going through my motion. I don't normally say Bailey passed away, but right after Bailey went away, his teammates from John Carroll and with Volutine, they were just so gracious in forming the 5K right away. I believe the first 5K was September the 18th. And from my recollection, over 300 JC students participated in the first John 5K event. So we have now made that, even though football was sort of like Bailey's go-to sport, his signature style, it seems like now the 5K is basically what we have all reminisce or remember Bailey.
Yeah, that's good. Well, how did you find out about the Brandon Tolson Foundation?
So, believe it or not, right after Bailey went away, I personally did not speak to anyone. So my significant other was actually speaking with Pam. So I'm not 100% sure how they all connected. He was sort of like my go-to person, my spokesperson. I probably went into having palpitations, but I would think that I went into like a shock. Just like everyone that's sitting at the table, you do have expectations, for your child. Just for them to be the best that they can. And, that was, going into his junior year, and then this would be senior years. And it's like all these things that we have just been working towards. And, when I'm home with Bailey, and he was a little cocky. He would say to me, "Hey, Mom, I can feel it, I can taste it." And I guess I was just like feeding into him just as much. I'm like, "Yeah, you're going to do it. You're going to be awesome." So, we were just like his biggest cheerleader, just for him to go out and just do what he thought he needed to do for himself.
So it was your husband that contacted Pam?
I'm trying to remember how I talked to Dr. Help me. What's his name? Dr. Parks.
Okay.
But we talked many times.
I think
this one did.
Yeah, I spoke with him as well. We had several people reach out. The great Harford County community. People started to reach out to us about Bailey right away. We knew some other people that went to John Carroll, and there was a connection there. And then after I spoke with him, I believe I just passed on the information along to Pam, and she made contact. And I remember showing up at the The viewing. That was the first time we met.
That was the first time we met.
Yeah, I
didn't meet you until months later.
It was months later.
Yes.
Yeah, funny thing, because you said the Harford County community, which is very strong. One thing I've noticed, the John Carroll community, even the alumni, it seems like nobody leaves. Everybody's always together. I don't know if that's. I didn't go to John Carroll, but it seems like that's something that I see all the time.
Yeah.
I'm a Baltimore City guy. I grew up down there, but I can tell you since I've been up here, it's just a whole different way.
Yeah.
The support from the community, from everywhere. I can't speak to John Carroll. Our kids didn't go there, but I know several people who have, and it's a very strong community.
Yeah.
Our boys went to Bel Air, and that's a very strong community, and I would assume that it is that way at all the other schools as well.
I would hope so, yeah.
You would hope so. Again, getting that support, it was mentioned a little bit earlier on that not everybody got that support, and again, a huge drive for the foundation because we had it. Those things that were important to us and that helped carry us, we just wanted to be able to pass that along. And
I think one of the things that you mentioned is that, you help a lot of families. And initially, people do rally around those who are grieving. How long how long is that extended? I mean, I know that all of you know each other, but how long do you stay with the family? If you notice,
there's no limit. No
the
limit on
community just continues
Mhm.
to provide support.
Yeah, and some people get to a point where, they may fade a little and we don't really hear from them. Others hang on for a really long time and they're at all of our events. We see them more and we are with them more, but it just depends. But we don't set a limit on how long we walk. This walks forever.
Yeah.
No,
So-
I know that.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I know that
So,
for sure.
yeah.
But I guess I was just trying to say because, a lot of times that initial help is super important and then people do tend to
Yes.
kind of continue with their lives. But I guess my question or just my comment was as a network and the family that you've established through this group, how long have you had people, that are just involved? How long has the foundation been around?
Just over 5, we lost Brandon just over 6 years, so 5? Just like 5.5 years or so, somewhere around there. And I'm still in touch with our first families, like 5 years ago. So they've hung with us, and the dads golf together, and there's still connection there at different places, and it's different. It looks different for everybody. It's not like we talk every week or we do this every week. It's just different. Just depends on what's happening at the time.
But I think also too, they're there, like, if somebody else new that needs support, they're there too. So what better people to turn to, and almost like a military thing, I guess you could say. The military, they get that support the spouses do.
Yes.
It's ongoing. It never stops.
Yeah, no.
And that's really the goal for this whole foundation. Is not the early part is the early part, and we often say how easy that is, right? The money part, if somebody needs money and we send a check and pay for whatever, that's over very quickly. But it's about the journey afterwards.
Right.
And in my opinion, that's the most important part of this, is to continue to go. And Candi said it, that some people fade out a little bit, then they may come back, but I just feel like that's part of our journey. There are days, and if it hasn't been said already, we had to surround ourselves with other people, and people like Pam over here, who in the early days of our foundation, if it was left to Candi and I, this thing would have folded 3 weeks after we got it started, because we were devastated and we couldn't do it. So we needed these people around us that were going to keep it going. And again, for me, the most healing part of this entire thing is to be able to get together with everybody and to be able to talk about our kids, because our support from our friends and family is amazing. Hopefully for everybody it was amazing. It was for us. But that's what fades. They all go back to normal life. And I remember Candi being very upset when everybody went back to their lives and the world continued. how does their world continue when ours is so devastated? So knowing that those people are going to have to go back to their lives, and they do, that's, again, I think the most important part of this foundation is we're going to be here. It's not going anywhere. We're going to be here for each other. You take breaks when you need to. You come back when you need to. And we're gonna do this journey together.
Good. I'd like to hear that.
And that's something we've talked about quite a bit. You bring up a really good point, because I've said, we've talked so many times of how can we support our parents, because, like John said, everybody goes back to their lives, and it makes it really hard. So a couple of things we're doing is we're starting a monthly, so Gilchrist is one of our grief counseling connections that we offer to our families, we have a private practice now as well that we can refer our families to. And with Gilchrist, we're going to start a support group on hopefully a monthly basis, and our first call is the 25th next week. And I think we have like 11 parents signed up. So it's all virtual right now. I'd love to do it in person, maybe at a round or square table, Rich, but, where we all get together. And just, again, to have, there's something to be said about sharing your story and feeling that. The other thing we started is what we're calling our BTF Viloma Companions, and Viloma is VILOMAH. So we kind of did some Google searching. The three of us were at dinner one night. I'm like, we talk about so much. There isn't a word for someone who's lost a parent. We have widow, and we have widower, and we have orphan, and all those things. And come to find out that the word actually comes from the same language as widow, and it means not in the right order. And I'm trying to think of her name, but a Duke University professor started using the term, and she herself lost her son. So I reached out to her, and I said, we want to use your word, and just wanted her to know why and make sure that was okay. She doesn't own the word, but yeah, she'd be honored to do that. And I kind of looked at it as like a hospice volunteer. So we reach out to our Viloma companions, and I think, Heather, you're one. I know Julie's one. Forgive me if I didn't get anybody else. I don't know if Patrice, if you're one, sorry. But so what happens is, as we engage a family, we have a process that we're talking to them. What is the financial need? What do we need to do for them? We send them a candle. We send them a trifold. We're working on a folder of information about BTF, about resources. And then we're going to assign them to another BTF parent, our Viloma companion. And that would mean, for Heather, in this example, she's responsible for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And she calls them as their BTF person. She knows what their child's, date of birth is, their passing date, to make sure she touches them around that time.
Right.
Meets with them if she can, if they're open to it, if she's open to it. Grab a coffee, grab a drink, just take a walk, make sure and feed back to Candi and John. This is what they're saying. Is there a need we need to fulfill, so that we're able to fulfill that mission, that we're staying connected with them for the long haul.
No, I love that. Rage Against Addiction, we have a closed Facebook group. It's called Halo, and it's how to live without your addicted loved one. So for those of us who have lost a child to addiction, we have a private group. So I like that. I feel like even though it was a loss of addiction, something when it's your child, it's very different. I mean, there are people who lose a spouse or a friend or a fiance or a cousin and stuff like that, but when it's a child, it hits you a lot differently. I think that you may have helped someone recently that had lost someone to addiction. I think I heard that you guys might have helped them out. I don't recall the name or anything like that, I wouldn't say, but
no, we have plenty of those.
Yeah, so I mean, even with having said that, I think that nonprofits that work together, I would love to have someone I could push your way if I need to, because we encounter that a lot.
And with that group specifically, there's I hate to say it, but it's so true. There's just like this stigma that they feel different because their kid was addicted or died of
it's hard. It's definitely hard. I mean, you guys are like sitting here saying, oh my gosh, they were loved this and they were starting their careers, and we don't typically have that. You know, we are struggling. We're, you know, it's unexpected, but it's not sometimes. So it's a whole different thing. So, you know, I think that the Facebook group does help. And then Mia, and she works with me, we've put together a book, and I'll have to tell you, it's called The 12 Days of Christmas Without Our Loved Ones Here with Us. And we're putting it together right now. So I can share that with you guys as well.
Yeah,
it's just a very simple type of, you know, children's book. Yep. Yeah.
You didn't tell me about this.
We're working on it right now. It's like, you know,
she always so surprises at me every time I see her. You know,
honestly, it is. So yeah, but all I'm saying is like I get it, and I think it's awesome that you guys have turned, you know, that pain into purpose, because once you do that, that changes everything for you and your healing journey.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Now, everybody at the table has lost a child, right? Except for
Pam.
Except for Pam and Julie.
No, I'm saying I have.
Oh, you have.
These two are together.
Yeah, well, I knew that. Julie and
they made a baby.
Yes, because Rich already complained that it wasn't a round table.
Oh, right, I know, right.
You want to share your story, even though it's not a round table? I mean, can that be done, Rich, at a square table?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think so. Around the edges. So Evan was 18. We lost him suddenly the night before Thanksgiving. He died of a fentanyl overdose.
Oh, jeez.
When it was cocaine laced with fentanyl. It kind of just our world flipped upside down. Got the call from our school. He had graduated from school, and we got a call from Boston that, you know, or no, we didn't get a call. I'm sorry. They announced it. Went out to everybody's email, the teachers and everything, about Evan passing away.
Wait a minute, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. Yeah, it went out
Before we even knew.
4 hours before. Yeah, before the
Get
police
out of
showed.
here.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
And our niece and nephew still went to school
Yeah.
there. And
They were like, had to be pulled out of school, and we were getting calls at like 7 o'clock in the morning. What's going on? Tell me this isn't true. And we're like, what? And last, I guess Julie tried to text him that night, and his phone must have died. So we didn't know where he was. At a friend's house, 6 of them. So, you know, the police come 4 hours later to give us the news that we already knew. We were pretty sure that we knew. And Evan loved to surf too. Evan was much like Brandon in a way.
he lived on the edge.
He lived on the
loved
edge.
cliff diving and all that stuff.
Wow. Surfing, cliff diving. He was the type of kid that, you know, he was into bodybuilding, so if he thought, you know, 10 grams of protein was good, he would take 60. Like, you know. He was just on the edge constantly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we try to tell him, you know, don't be reckless. And we tell kids, don't be reckless.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're taking nowadays. It's not, you know, back in the 70s, 80s, where everything was pure. Now everything's laced with fentanyl. They're spraying it on weed. They're spraying it on everything.
Yeah.
Now they've got nerds. You know, nerd candies, sweet dark candies that are fentanyl.
Get out of here.
Yep. I mean, it's in everything. It's,
Jesus.
I guess they pulled in enough, or actually confiscated enough fentanyl to kill every single American this year alone. And that's what they've confiscated. So this is making its way into everything. And we were always telling them, you know, be careful, be careful. You know, you always think smoking weed doesn't lead to the next thing, but it does, you know, quite frankly. But, I mean, he was just a super, super kid. And it's awesome to find out things like people come to us and say, you know, they were being bullied in school. And, sorry. He would stick up for him. And, you know, he was the kid that stuck up for a lot of boys.
Right.
That's what we find out. So, you can go take over.
Great.
We'll
Now
tell
I'm
you,
gonna
like,
be crying. Okay.
Speaking of waves, this happens. It's like, you go, I guess the waves would get further apart, you know, the longer. It's been 3 years. But then when they hit, it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was worried about you cussing, but I'm ready to now because the bit with the email and everything. Whatever happened to notifying the next of kin first?
I really don't know where the breakdown went. Our
resource officer, I think.
I think the EMT that showed up knew the resource officer. Evan still had his Falston ID on him, and so I guess they figured they would, take care of that first. So friends at school could get counseling and all that. And so yeah, my best friend, who we call their kids niece and nephew, called me that morning, was like very apprehensive about like what she wanted to say. She's like, "Hi Julie, everything okay?" I was like, yeah, fine, just getting ready to go to work. And where's Evan? Is Evan okay? And I'm like, oh, he spent the night at a friend's house last night. I guess he's probably on his way home now.
Right.
And then that's when she told me that there's an email. She goes, well, I don't know what's going on, but they're getting an email. All the teachers are telling the students that Evan passed away last night. And with that, I dropped the phone and went running to him, and we started the call chain, So we called all the police departments. We called the hospitals.
My friend in the narcotics division.
Yeah, our friend in the narcotics division came and, helped us, and
called the principal, but he wouldn't take our call.
So Rich just called up and said, hi, I heard about Evan Blood. And the lady was like, oh my gosh, this is the worst news. I know, it's so sad. And
they had no idea it was him.
And Rich was like, well, this is his father, and it would have been nice if we found out before you all found out. And was like, it's not that. She was just like, well, you got to call the Bel Air Police Department. And
I would have, oh my God.
There's so much we could have done, but what would it have helped at that point?
Yeah.
What I mean about getting mad or
you got to have so many different emotions going through you because, number one, you lost your son. So, you got that sadness, that grief going through you. And then the way everything was handled, the anger's got to be there. And I got a short temper. I don't know how you did it. I know I would have snapped.
We were in shock.
Yeah.
We were in survival mode. Yeah. And that's actually where friend of a friend who Julie's hairdresser and Pam's hairdresser knew somebody or knew, and like just a weird.
Yeah, well, how we found out about the BTF was I go get my hair done at the same place Pam gets her hair done, and I don't get my hair done.
Maybe you should.
Yeah.
I don't think they can put anything up there.
And I had not met her, never. And then they let me know about the foundation, my hairdresser.
Oh wow!
And,
so you called Pam?
Yeah, I did a few days later. It took a little while. It's kind of one of those things a little bit of pride, a little bit of like, we didn't have that extra money just hanging out to take care of the cremation and all that. So we had family that was willing to help, but they stepped in, and when I called them, were very quick to help, and
so how was the support?
Became very good friends.
Although we say often we'd rather not be friends.
Yeah, these are the nicest people I never wanted to meet.
No, she and I have become friends.
Oh, say you'd rather not be friends with Rich?
No. Just so glad we are. So glad we are. Become very, very good friends. Yeah. But would rather them not for the reason we became friends. Yeah.
Well, and Wendy mentioned something earlier because I didn't realize, with your son, it was the fentanyl. And you mentioned earlier about how some people, the deaths are different, and people, when it comes to support, handle other people different. Yeah. I mean, how was it for you guys?
Yeah, I felt like there is that stigma of an overdose, like, oh, well, they were doing drugs, and that doesn't mean they should die.
Right, exactly.
So, and he didn't
I know he wouldn't have done it had he known it was fentanyl in it, knowing as much as we drilled in his head, like, be careful, don't take any kind of pill, don't take anything that you don't know where it came from, you know. When they're 18 and a half, nothing's going to happen to them.
Well, and that's one of
That's in their head.
the scary things there, because you mentioned that they're putting it on nerds. Well, I guess the box would have to be open.
No, they just look.
They make it, the manufacturing to look like
they're
nerds.
making it
Oh,
like
and sweet
candy. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So.
So some people may not even know. Say, oh yeah, here, take some.
So that is kind of when we get to that point, we would like to start something of more of an educational thing to get people to know. Like, not everybody knows that, you know.
Tell parents. We tell. I mean, we're not ashamed of it. It happens, so we want to tell people.
Yeah.
Tell parents. Tell kids. Tell. You know, I've had kids my daughter's age. Her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, came up to me. He's like, you know, thank God you made that speech at the at the memorial, because, you know, so many of my friends are just so reckless.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and they think nothing's going to happen. They're invincible.
A lot of them do when they're young.
Yeah. I mean, we're not ashamed. It's just, I mean, we're kind of lucky that he didn't become addicted, because that probably would have been a long journey.
It can be a very long
Can
journey.
be, right.
Yeah, it can be.
I mean, we know people who have been on and off and on and off, and, you know, 29, 30 years old, and been clean sober for 2 years and overdose.
Absolutely.
And many of our families, you know, it comes from, you know, a lot of people, when you go through something like this, you want to start your own, like Julie and Rich wanting to do that education. A lot of nonprofits fail, not just because it always comes out of a really good place of the need and the desire to help and to honor, in this case, your child. But what we're willing to do, and this is more John can speak to, is we're saying to families, you know, we're already established.
Right.
So, you know, John has wanted to have a concert, and so they've been discussing a Evan Blood Memorial concert to benefit BTF. So we'll have that awesome event, but it's going to have Evan's name on it, you know, because we want to honor Evan, and they want to honor Evan. You know, and that's another thing for our families. If there's a way and something they want to do, we want to help them do that without them having to go through all the legal and all those aspects of it.
I'm glad you said that, because and you're right, a lot of people, and you're seeing more and more nonprofits pop up, but then you're seeing more and more nonprofits fold. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, you know, if you want to do something, hook up with a nonprofit that's already established and do it in their name. You know, I mean, it's
a lot of work. It's a business. It is a business, and you have to make. And we talk about this. We had a board meeting last night. Some things we have to do, and we have to run it like a business and try to keep the emotions out of it. But it's hard. You know, everybody on our board, for example, is close to Candi and John, knew and loved Brandon. We're family. We're close friends. What have you. So it can be hard to just kind of, you know, put that wall up and not let, especially I'm sure for Candi and John the most, of not letting the emotions drive the decisions that we make. It's hard. But you have to make that foundation, or you will fail, like any business.
So what are some of the other nonprofits that you guys work with? Or have you yet? Because, I mean, you guys are still pretty young, too.
I don't know that there's another foundation or nonprofit that does what we do.
Right.
Specifically. You know, you have the cancer one that you mentioned, somebody mentioned.
The cancer one?
Oh,
they
the
help
Pinky Swear Foundation.
Swear.
There is one in New England, and they do a retreat, and I know that that's something Candi has really wanted to do, is a retreat for our parents, that, you know, we're going to cover all that, you know, it's something, you know, a weekend retreat or whatever it is, you know, we'll get there. It's all these things, again, how can we support all of these parents? What can we do to, you know, bring them together in areas and to help support them?
So we've come, Heather and I, we reach out to newly grieving parents What's the name of it?
The Loma Companion.
The what?
The Loma
Oh,
Companion.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
I'll never remember it.
We'll get you a badge.
So,
Sorry.
So not only were we helped by them, we are now contributing
Right.
and helping others, and that's a big part of the healing process.
Yeah.
I found, and Rich has found, like, we're all in with helping with events and just making sure, like, I know the money that they helped us with, we helped raise back probably tenfold.
Ridiculous.
At
Or
least.
more.
So Rich got pulled in. Well, Julie was already part of it, and then pulled Rich into our bull roast committee, and he's part of the golf committee now. But this man was on fire for that. Yeah, they had tables, so many people coming in, so many sponsorships. She is absolutely right. They definitely did filled that room. We had 800 people in April at our event.
For the bull roast?
Yes, sir. And we raised $80,000.
Because it was at Martin's. Right? That's when it was. Would you say Martin's Valley?
It's at Martin's Valley Mansion because Martin's
Yeah.
East is where we were for 2 years in 17, 18, actually in 19.
Mhm.
And then COVID, and then they sold
Right.
that location. Valley Mansion it's really nice. It's large. Listen, we've looked around. We've checked places.
There's nothing here in Hartford
There is
County that
nothing
can
here
hold
to
that
hold
many.
that kind of, no.
Yeah.
And we had a live band. We have over 70 items on the raffle auction to win. We have, 6, 7 super prizes. There's just amazing stuff. Tito's is our vodka sponsor. Yeah, so we're going for 10. He's on a mission.
And how early did we sell out?
Well, it's funny. We sold out a couple different times because we would sell out, and then we'd be like, Jerry Riley's on the committee, and she and I would be like, well, wait, we can fit another table here, and so I'd throw in another 10 tickets, and I mean, we packed that room. You know,
Yeah.
Carrie was there, Heather was there, Patrice. I don't know if you made it, but you're gonna have to make it this year, baby. As are you two. Yeah, it was packed, but comfortably packed.
Yeah.
But we have, there's some gambling there. I don't know if you heard me say Tito's is our vodka sponsor. They vodka sponsor for the bull roast, for the golf outing. They are very, very, and they've been supportive. That was just reached out to them for like the 2019 bull roast, and they've been our partner ever since.
They're not local, are they?
No, but they have.
They are very big on sponsoring
Philanthropy.
events.
They are, and they will give you as much vodka as you want. Oh yeah, yeah. I know, it's awesome.
They're awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, we fill a liquor wagon, a beach wagon with all kinds of liquor and wine and swag and beer. I think I
Right.
forgot to put the Tito's in this time. That's why we have so much in storage. I kind of forgot to. There was no more room in the wagon. I mean, there was really no room left in that thing. Stu had it packed. Anyway, sure, yeah. Well, Anyway, I digress. It's okay.
It's amazing.
But
if I could just chime in that BTF has been like super supportive to Bailey's because we also started a foundation for
Right.
Bailey's, so we did the CPR. I mean, you were like right there. What can I do? The media person from BTF reached out. Hey, I can help to like advertise, just like flyers and things along that line. So they have been super supportive with any family that's like grieving the loss of a child that would like to start an organization on their behalf. By the time John reached out, he was like, well, what do you need help with? Any of the legal stuff? And I'm like, I've already started it. So, yeah.
Yeah, what's the name of yours?
It's Bailey's Heart and Soul Foundation.
Bailey's Heart and Soul. That's right. And what's the website for that?
Bailey's Heart and Soul.
.org?
.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a little break here. I have to tell you about my friends at Freedom Federal Credit Union. Turn to Freedom if you're looking to buy a home, regardless of whether you've done it before or not. Any kind of home can be purchased or refinanced with their assistance. They provide a comprehensive selection of choices, as well as the assistance and knowledge necessary to make purchasing a home simple and within one's financial means. Collaborate with one of their knowledgeable mortgage representatives who will assist you in selecting the appropriate loan type and will walk you through the procedure from beginning to end. I've been a member of Freedom Federal Credit Union for years, and I love them. Go to freedomfcu.org. Again, that's freedomfcu.org, and find out how making home ownership is easy and affordable.
I don't want to get too far away from the healing aspect of getting involved with doing something so wonderful like you are now for Bailey, and being able to work through that, and you all coming on as Veloma companions and the bull roast and the golf committee, and you're doing something, and you know that's helping somebody else.
To honor our kids is so big. Like, we want to make people remember them, but also to honor the goodness of it. Like, it's just a passion that kind of like boils up to the top. I don't know. I think most of our parents that I have spoken to, the first conversation, I want to do something. I want to do something. You know, so that urge to honor.
It's a journey.
It's
like a journey. It's a mission.
Yeah.
The fire's there. You're up until 12, 1 o'clock at night just trying to figure it out, just to navigate what do I need to do. And it feels so good, right?
Does.
Yes, it does.
I mean, the foundation is Brandon to me.
I was just going to say that. It becomes the relationship a new relationship with them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, Heather, you got to. Oh, go ahead. You're going to say something, John.
I was just gonna say like BTF. I think the idea for BTF probably came around at about 2 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
Yes.
Down in my basement, couldn't sleep.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
You know, and just like, we should do something. You know, and it just started to form. But your mind's never shut off, especially in those early days. It's just impossible to quiet the mind and to be able to focus it on a task, a distraction of whatever you want to call it, is almost necessary. Rich used the word survival mode earlier. We were all in survival mode, you know, and it's just, how are you going to survive? What are you going to do? We, luckily enough, with the support of our friends, our family, our community, had a vision to go a direction, and it was a positive direction, and everybody jumped on board with it, and it's been going that way ever since. And we couldn't be any more grateful to everybody who's come along during this journey. And you know, it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Right. Now, does everybody know your story?
I don't know.
Did you want to share it?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I founded Rage Against Addiction prior to my daughter passing away. She was addicted early on. Probably it started around the age of 15, and she went to Fallston, and she passed away when she was 24. So I had a really long road with her. You know, just the addiction journey. That could take another 2 hours to go through that, which I won't. But and I had started Rage in 2014. She passed away in 2015, and not unlike you, I had a really large group of people that just kind of like swooped in, and Rage Against Addiction became, you know, it just kind of blossomed at that point. And then I had, you know, a mission, and what I wanted to do was put in some safety nets where I saw that she could have had better treatment, better sober living, better, you know, and even support for myself, because I really didn't know what to do. Like I was chasing something that I had no idea what it was. And so, I mean, it was a long journey for us. But, you know, after she passed away, you know, Rage, you know, kind of blossomed, and now we have the 3 sober living houses. And I did write a children's book. It's called Christmas Angel, about her. She died on Christmas Day. So that was part of my journey as well. So yeah, so we all you know, have this common, you know, part of a group that you don't want to be a part of, but you are. And, you know, you can feel really isolated, you know, and having people that understand, whether it's in, you know, the Halo group, because, you know, there is the stigma or whatever, but losing a child is tough. It's like a journey. And it's, you know, you go through all the stages, and then you repeat them again. You know, so now I'm getting ready to go into my grieve. I call it my grieving season, because her birthday and then Christmas. And so it's like, you know, it changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
But I
I'm
find
saving you for last.
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. I felt it. You're worried. Easy to edit at the end.
She gave
take
me
off the
look. I
last
was like,
10
oh
minutes.
yeah, I already know I'm saving you for last. I'm sorry.
that's okay. No. So yeah, so it's ongoing, and it is like I got it. I really do get it, and I feel like that what I've done and what you've done and what you talked about, it is part of like the healing process. I needed to see these women recover, and because I can see them and I can be a part of their life, and I've seen it happen, I have hope that I didn't have before. Mm-hmm. So they healed me in a lot of ways. So it means a lot to me.
I've
And
never
you've met a lot
so
of
many
them.
wonderful people.
Yeah.
Since I met Wendy,
That's really
and
cool.
to and like with you guys, I love to hear their stories because I know it's healing them as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't realize when you talk about it, it does. It's not only healing you. I think the people that hear it, it's healing them as well.
Yep.
You know, which is important. And the thing is, somebody may hear this and say, "Oh, well, wait a minute, my child." There might be a problem there. I need to talk, especially the way mental health is nowadays too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need to do something now,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not, looking to put their ashes in a glass of fusion or whatever. If they hear something, say, there's a problem, we can help them now. Because some of us don't get that. We can't.
Mm-hmm.
But. Hopefully the people that hear this can. Heather.
Yes.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce the last name because I'll mess it up.
Where's your notes?
I got to close the book. Would you like to share your story?
Sure. So my son Joel was 19, and Monday was exactly 4 years since he passed away. He was killed in a car accident. And so I think what I really want to focus on is like how helpful the Brandon Tolson Foundation was. I knew about Candi. So in a little nutshell, I was at my sister's house when Brandon's accident happened, and we just heard that there had been an accident and a young person had died. My sister is a coworker and a friend of Candi's and was at that time. So the next day my sister called me and said, "Remember the accident that we heard about?" Well, that was my coworker Candi's son. And of course, I was upset.
Right.
Any mother hearing about another mother losing their child is very upsetting. So So through the journey of Brandon and the Brandon Tolson Foundation coming about, my sister was sharing, "Do you remember Candi? And this is what they're doing, and it's so great, and it's so wonderful." And I never thought that it would be a part of my life. Joel was killed on a Wednesday, and we learned about the accident on Facebook. And one of the comments, and I always share this because oftentimes when we see an accident, we post on Facebook or on social media, and you put in there, "Oh, well, this happened and that happened," in the comments. Well, somebody had commented that they thought the driver had died. And that's how I thought. It wasn't for sure, but we believed that that's what had happened. And we made all the phone calls and called the hospitals and shock trauma because the news was even there and said that he was phoned to shock trauma. And we couldn't get any confirmation. My husband called the Baltimore County Police Department because the accident happened in Baltimore County, and all they would tell him is, we're on our way to your house. We've had a hard time finding where to go, where to find you, and we're on our way to your house. And my husband was questioning, and they wouldn't say anything over the phone, just that we're on our way to your house. And so he had to call me and tell me that it was our son that was in that accident, and that he had died, and the police were on their way to our house. So he came to pick me up. He didn't want me to drive. He came to pick me up. I was about 30 minutes from home. and brought me home. And that was on a Wednesday. And the devastation is, it's shock. You are completely numb. I just remember sitting there thinking, not even thinking, you're literally trying to wrap your brain around the reality of the universe still spinning and existing, but your child isn't there. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So that was Wednesday. And then on Friday, we were talking about the funeral and what we were going to do. Actually, it was on Thursday. It was the very next day. We were in my house, and my sister was there, and we had great family. Our family was a huge support. And we were talking about what we were going to do for the funeral, and I was talking through all these plans. And my family was just like, you don't have to think about that. And they were trying to comfort me. But if you haven't lost a child, you don't understand how to comfort.
Yeah.
And you're just so lost. And my sister was trying to comfort me and say, you don't need to worry about that. And the family was saying that. And I'm like, no, but it's really important. And Candi walked through my front door. And I'll never, ever forget how that felt. I felt so lost until she walked through my front door. And like I said, it had been 24 hours. Not even 24 hours after my son died, and there was Candi standing in my living room. And there's packets now, and there's candles now, and at the time it was just Candi in my doorway with a piece of paper, and that was the Brandon Tolson Foundation to me. And I remember saying to her about planning Joel's funeral, and my sister trying to, it's okay, we're going to take care of it. And Candi looked at me, and I would just never forget, and she said, make it good. Make it good. And it's the last thing you'll plan for your child.
Yeah.
It's a funeral. And I wanted it to be good. And Candi understood that, where nobody else really did. And so the Brandon Tolson Foundation, to me, has been that connection, that grounding, where you're somewhere between heaven and earth. And that's where the Brandon Tolson Foundation exists, is somewhere between heaven and earth. And,
Right.
and that's where we need it to exist. That's where we need to be. That's where we need to exist. So, just the Brandon Tolson Foundation coming alongside, and Candi being in my living room and sitting with me and talking to me, and them coming to the viewing. They were there at the viewing with us, and just offering that support. And there's a lot of talk about the finances. What I needed was Candi in my living room.
Right.
That's what I needed. I needed to know that I had a lifeline, and there were many nights where I laid in bed and I just sent text messages or Facebook Messenger messages to Candi, and almost all the time she would respond with something that was just very healing. And
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember meeting Heather right after I lost Evan, and I looked at you and was like totally amazed, like your strength and just the way you can talk about how passionate you are about your son and BTF. I was just in awe. I was like, wow, she's got it together. And she just lost her son a year ago. I'm on week 3 or whatever. And I remember meeting you then.
So you met at our house.
Yeah, at your house.
I'm just trying to put that together.
At the Christmas dinner, yeah. And that was
We
very
hate
nice.
the holidays party that we
We hate the holidays.
We hate the
Oh
holidays.
yeah, I'm in my grieving season. Mine
That's
is
amazing.
We hate the holidays.
Day before
Love that.
Thanksgiving, and then Christmas is utterly painful.
Yeah.
Really, you do a party called "We Hate the Holidays" party?
I mean, it's like
I like that.
I don't
Love it.
title it, but
It's not official.
You
it's
should.
not really
You
official.
should
but
Should title it.
Yeah.
That's what
amazing.
it is. It's like we all know this is a really tough time of year, and we don't have
Yeah.
the spirit like we used to about the holidays, and and we all know that, we all get that. So instead of being in public and people going, "What do you mean you hate Christmas?" I don't hate the idea of Christmas. I hate that my son's not here for it anymore. I hate that I have to celebrate this day and do all the things without him. So that's just understood across the board, and maybe I'll name the party this year. It's coming up. Keep an eye out.
Surprise, you may not believe this or not, but not one of my favorite holidays.
It's not for a lot
I
of
may
people.
play Santa, but I love it because of that, and you know, it's making the kids happy. But not one of my favorite holidays are Veterans Day and Halloween, and I think that's it. I'm missing one.
Thank God we still have a daughter that does all our Christmas shopping for us.
That's awesome.
She pulls it together for us.
Yeah, Colin does
We can't
stuff,
do it.
I think one of the things that people forget, like you said, everybody's life kind of goes on.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy as a parent that's lost a child to get stuck, because it's not that we hate Christmas, right? We love Christmas, but we're making memories without our children. And so every experience brings new grief. Because I didn't just lose my son, my 19-year-old son. I also lost him at 20 and 21 and 22, and he would be 23. And he has a nephew now, and I've lost that memory. I've lost a wedding and a daughter-in-law and grandchildren through my son. We didn't just lose our children. We lost... I called it, we lost a branch off of our family tree. It's just broken, and it's gone, and that's really hard to move forward like that. And that's why I think the Brandon Tolson Foundation is just such an amazing organization, because like you had said in the beginning, like how long? It's forever, because that's how long we're going to need. The support is forever, and it's each other. It's not like we're all turning to Candi. We all love to turn to Candi. She's amazing, but again, like Julie said, when I was having that conversation with her, and there's so many other parents that we just rely on and have grown to love.
So we've been talking about the parents, and I don't know if all of you have other kids as well, but for those of you that do, how were they?
How long do you have? Well, no.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, they are all different. You know?
Well, I know that.
Some of them don't ever talk about it. Some of them are very open. Like
Colin didn't want to talk about
he
it.
protected us, I think.
Best friends. You know, they were best friends, double dated, worked at the same place, and didn't want to talk about it. And then you come to find out from his friends, well, he's just trying to be strong for you two, right? So you got this young teenager who lost his big brother, best friend, and he's being strong for his parents. What do you say to that? Because as a dad, I'm supposed to be there for him.
Right.
But you have to remember where we are in survival mode, in shock, in all of those things that happen to you. And you know, we're lucky to have a son like Colin who is as good as he is and stayed true to who he is and rallied for us. So we're lucky to have him.
I wondered what we would do Christmas morning. You know, like certain things, like you said, you're recreating each step of all of those things. And for me, that was like, I was like, I don't know how they would stand in the hallway and wait until we said, you can come out. And in my mind, I was just like, what does that look like for us this first year? Here comes Colin. Came out of his room, right down the hallway. Did not pause, just went right out to the tree. He's like, are we going to do this? And it was so cool. Like it was like he knew that. Nothing was ever spoken. He just like handled it. And it was awesome for me. I don't know. It was like one of those times where I thought, okay, I don't know why I worried about that. But
Yeah, I love talking to my older son about. So Joel had two brothers, one older, one younger, and the younger one didn't really want to talk about it. He, was just kind of in his own grief and didn't talk about it much. But my older son, that was his little brother, and
Yeah.
he had a lot of guilt. He's like, I'm his big brother, I'm supposed to protect him, so he had a lot of guilt. But I love the conversations I get to have with my oldest son. His name's Jeremy, and we really get to talk about Joel, and we can laugh together and cry together, and we can make new memories, but still have Joel a part of even the new memories. So, but Jeremy explained it once as like he felt like he lost a part of him. Mm-hmm. And I know as parents that have lost a child, we can relate to that feeling. But when he expresses his grief and how he feels, it's very similar to my grief, to our grief. It's very similar to lose. And I don't know if it's because they were young and, they were, so Joel was 19, that would have made Jeremy 23, I think. And they were very close. And so, I think their grief is probably very similar to ours.
I know of my son because we lost our daughter. Like I said, my wife was in her final trimester. And my son was excited. And, my son was, at the time I had him every other weekend. But he was very excited about having a, baby sister. He was 7 at the time. It was hard on him. It was harder on my older brother, that was always my best friend, my idol. That's how I always talked to him. And when I called him from the hospital, he was there right away. And very short temper. He wanted to know what happened. Doctors really couldn't tell him. And first time I seen somebody take a no parking sign and literally rip it right out of the ground. That's the way he was. But my son, it hurt him, but he was able to cope with it. Now the strange thing is, that was 2000. In 2001, we had our second daughter. And my daughter now talks about her sister that she never met all the time. She has a little redheaded doll that she keeps. That's her Maggie doll that she talks, and it stays in her. She's 21 now, but she's still, that doll stays in her bed all the time. Somebody asks how many brothers, sisters you have. Well, I have one sister and one brother all the time. And she just loves talking about it. Mm-hmm. And I think I told you this before too, because I was able to put one thing in her hand, and it was an angel that my mother had brought in on a little music box that played Amazing Grace. My mother always knew that song made me cry. I think she did it on purpose. So the box later fell on, but I keep it on my nightstand. So every night before I go to sleep, I sit there and I say a prayer to her. Every morning when I wake up, same thing. But my daughter, because my daughter asked me about the angel, I told her, I said, it's Maggie. It's what Maggie held. So my daughter, when she was very little, gave me a rock that looks like a heart. Mm-hmm. So now I'll grab that heart and I call it my grateful rock and say something that I'm grateful for every day. But I mean, we still have the pictures there and everything. Had the funeral, and it was good. A lot of friends, and the funny thing is, my family was kind of, I guess you could say, divided at the time. My mother lived here. My father was living in Florida, and my brother. A lot of my brothers and sisters weren't. A lot of us weren't talking, and it brought us all together. And I've always said that's why that happened. And I swear she's always sitting here on my shoulder. Not my mother. Talk about my daughter. But I swear she's my guardian angel and just looks over me all the time, because some of the stuff I did, I'm wondering how I'm still here at times.
Yes, life is very fragile.
Yeah.
It's amazing we're all still here when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
We got good track records for making it through stuff.
100%. We've made it through every single bad day. 100%.
Yeah.
It's that support. It's that support, and it's You need that, and it's on. It's like I said before. It's ongoing. It never stops. And my son will talk to my daughter. My daughter all the time about it. He doesn't talk to me that much. Only if I have food for him and he wants to come over and eat. But
Typical.
or if he knows we have an event to DJ, then he'll show up. Carri,
Yes.
do I have to start getting the buttons ready?
Yeah. We're gonna be so good. You're not even gonna. You're not even gonna worry.
Out.
Yeah. That's right.
Funk out.
That's right.
Nice.
That's funny.
Oh God.
We have a lot of fun with my last name.
Good, huh?
We have a lot of fun with my last name.
Oh, why? Never mind. Go ahead and share your story.
So, so my daughter was 2 when she died.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And on Sunday, she will have been dead 15 years. So it's really cool that I got introduced to the Brandon Tolson Foundation, not because of the work that they did for me, but I met Pam through our day jobs in the banking industry. And so she heard about my story, and she's like, hey, we do some work. Brandon Tolson Foundation does some work helping families, etc. And when I heard about it, I was like, this is something I would love to partner with. When my daughter was 2, she went down for a nap, just like a regular day. I was at work. Our babysitter was at home. And we got a phone call that the dresser had fallen on her, and we need to get home. So we were on our way home. My husband and I worked at the same place. And I was thinking, okay, she probably broke her leg, not thinking it was like super serious.
Right.
But as soon as we turned onto our street, it was like a scene out of a movie.
Oh my God.
Fire trucks lining the street, ambulance, police cars, and the ambulance was pulling off as we were pulling up. And I was like, hold on, if that has my kid in it, like I need to get in that ambulance. And so I jumped out of our truck and I ran to the ambulance. I was screaming, like, stop. The driver got out and said, ma'am, we have got to get her to the hospital. You cannot come. Like, they wouldn't let me in the ambulance. So I was thinking, because they said we have to get her to the ambulance, I was thinking that's probably a good sign, right? Like, so I get into the house. Ironically, it was a resource officer at my son's middle school who was a first responder police officer that was there. And so she immediately started asking me questions, and she's like, what was your daughter's name? And I said, what do you mean, what was my daughter's name? What are you talking about? Is my daughter dead? Like, what are you saying to me? And she was like, no, that's not what I mean. I just need to know, like, the information on your daughter. And my son was 4. He was home also with our babysitter, who happened to be a family member. So it wasn't like, it wasn't a stranger. So everybody was pretty traumatized. When she went to get her up from her nap, she was under the dresser, and she did CPR. She did all these things as she was trying to get 911 there. But what we found out is that they couldn't pronounce her dead at our house, but my daughter was dead immediately. She died instantly. So we had to go through the process of being escorted to the hospital and having the doctor come in and tell us your daughter's dead. And then immediately, because she died in our house and she wasn't sick, we were immediately investigated. So we were separated. My husband and I were separated and interrogated.
Jeez.
So I don't wish that job on anybody. I can't imagine having to be those cops, but but unfortunately, we're kind of the exception, not the rule. When you have that kind of tragedy happen in your home, it's really literally guilty until presumed innocent, I guess, is the best way to say that. But similar to the families around this table, for me, I felt like, okay, I'm a regular mom. I have an 11-year-old. I've got a 4-year-old. Madison was 2. Like, I'm doing all the things. I work. I'm a good wife. My kids go to the doctor. They get their shots. How come I never knew that her dresser could kill her? Like, what is the problem here? Like, there must be there must be other people that don't know about this, right? Like, it can't just be me. And I immediately started doing some research on the internet, and when I say immediately, like, she died on a Tuesday, we buried her on Friday. By Monday, I was already like, what is going on here? And I started finding, like, 2 specific people. One, the son died literally, like, a week after Madison. And then the other lady, her daughter died right around the same time, within a few months. And I was like, this is a thing.
What, both the same way?
Yeah, with dressers falling on top of them.
Wow.
And so, anyway, so I started a website, I built a website, mattiesmessage.com, and we didn't become a true nonprofit until a couple years ago, but we did a lot of work, and for me, it's just about educating folks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really about, like, did you know that dresser that's in your house, or the buffet, or the armoire, or any piece of furniture that you have could fall over and kill your child? And it doesn't have to be a big piece, and it doesn't have to be a heavy piece. It can be a nightstand. My friend's son died from a nightstand falling over on him. And so for me, it was about, like, I had to tell people about this, which is why we started Mattie's Message. And we literally hand out furniture straps and random act of kindness cards to get people's, like, people that we wouldn't normally, like, run into. Because I felt like by the time she would have been 5, everybody that I knew about it. Everybody that my parents knew about it. Everybody at the church, you know. But how do I get to the people that are not, like in our circle? Like, how do I do that? And I mean, I don't have a website that's gone viral. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have anything like that. So it's really been like one person at a time, one paid for McDonald's behind me at the drive-thru at a time type of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it felt like a miracle. Back in late 2019, I came across a Facebook group called Parents Against Tip Overs. And I was like, wait, what do you mean there's a group about this? You kidding me? And so I reached out to them, and they said, oh my God, we've been trying to get in touch with you. Like, we've seen your story. And so I connected with them, and most of the parents in Parents Against Tip Overs, their losses are more recent than mine, except 2. And it's the 2 I told you about, which I felt like I was meeting a celebrity the first time I met these parents that I had read their stories right after my daughter died, but now I get to work with them every single day. And Parents Against Tip Overs does a lot of really great work in the vein of furniture safety and really pushing the regulations and furniture safety and standards and all of that. I continue down the path of, well, I think all that's important. Yeah. I continue down the path of educating folks. Like, I think when you look at my daughter's picture and you see her little 2-year-old beautiful face, like, you can't say, oh, that'll never happen to me. Like, take my furniture straps and strap your furniture, and don't think twice about it. Don't overanalyze it. One of the things that we deal with so Madison's death was preventable.
Right.
But we didn't prevent it. So we want people to know that. This is the number of kids that die every year from furniture tip over. It's not a big number. I mean, unless it's your kid, right? But the number is
one is a big number.
Right. 1 every 11 days in the United States dies from furniture tip over.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot when it's preventable, right? So, we've done a lot of great work, and I don't want to take credit for this. My story is my story, but the other people at Parents Against Tip Overs have really driven legislation, and we literally, on September 28th, so a couple weeks ago now, maybe a week and a half ago, the Sturdy Act was passed. It's signed at the Senate, passed in the Senate, which is to stop tip overs on unsturdy, risky dressers on our youth, which puts mandatory testing and requirements in place that the Consumer Product Safety Commission is able to enforce now. So all of that's really, really great and super important for any piece of furniture that you're going to buy in the future. But every piece of furniture that is in our houses today should be strapped. And so we still have a lot of work to do there.
Yeah, because, I mean, God, when you have kids, you think about the safety things, the gates, the things that go into plugs, the things that lock the drawers, but who would have ever thought about, with the dressers and all? And you said a nightstand?
Yeah. In America, when you buy something, you expect it to be safe.
Yeah.
That's the expectation. You buy a car, you drive it off the lot, you expect the brakes work.
Right.
You don't expect that you have to take it someplace else and add something to it or buy something extra to make it safe. And with furniture is not safe. Not all furniture is safe without some aftermarket work that you need to do, anchoring it to a wall.
Well, I guess now that legislation is passed on this, hopefully it'll be just like with the car seats and the strollers. If they know something's wrong, it's going to be recalled.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, because when you see a lot of, when kids get older, those dresses are either given to, a
passed
thrift
down.
shop or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And hopefully they'll study that and see that, oh no, this is no good. We can't go into the burn pile.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's right.
And hopefully that'll happen. It should happen.
Does the Sturdy Act require manufacturers who make it today that aren't up to standard? Does it require them to change that in their manufacturing?
It doesn't go into effect for another 180 days.
Provide straps.
Some of them do. It's not required, but some of them do. And you work with, we talk about being able to talk for hours about furniture safety, but it's kind of silly that people aren't just like, absolutely, let me just make this a safe piece of furniture. IKEA, they sell unsafe furniture all day, and their recall strategy it sucks.
Right.
So, now they're coming around. It's cost them many millions of dollars, but many children have died under an IKEA dresser. But and some of my really good friends that I didn't want to meet through this, that have done a lot of advocacy work on behalf of their children. But I will say that the Brandon Tolson Foundation, just from knowing Pam and participating in the bull roast, I didn't have any of that. Similar to what you said, there was this type of stuff didn't exist back in when Madison died. So for me, that journey's been long and lonely. And so I did what you guys do. I better figure it out. My daughter was an organ donor, which was super cool. So her heart valves were donated. So I did a lot of work with LifeNet Health. And they have a program like your program. It's called Grief Companion. So I'm a grief companion with LifeNet Health. So anytime they have like a newly bereaved parent that's been an organ donor, then they'll connect them with me. And just very similar to what you do. You just walk the journey, whatever they need. Whether it's they like to text, they want a coffee. But you know the key dates, you know the key things, you know things about that family, and you can say like nobody else can say. And I know that the first year sucks, but the second year sucks worse. You know? Like the second...
You know that. I was wondering.
Yeah, the second year just sucks worse because everybody is there to be there for your first Christmas without your kid and your first Mother's Day without your kid. But no one's there your second Christmas without your kid and your second Mother's Day because people think that you should be okay by then.
Yeah.
And
should have gotten over it by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Year 2 is the reality of never.
Yes.
It dawns on you that second Christmas. This is forever.
Yeah.
It's not just, the first Christmas or it's forever. And that's why, that to me was why the second year was so difficult.
And I felt like I had to be the person for everybody else.
Right.
That was my role. So somebody mentioned to me, it's interesting what other people's perspectives are that are watching you that you don't realize are watching you. But our babysitter was at home. So there's a lot of speculation immediately from people that she was somehow negligent. And I'm so grateful selfishly grateful that that didn't happen overnight and I had to see my daughter like that. You know what I mean? And I hate that for my babysitter, but she wasn't negligent. And so I had to go into protector mode for my babysitter. Mm-hmm. I had to do some things that made a statement, like she rode in our limo with us to the funeral. She sat next to me at our funeral. Like, I needed everybody to know we had no, like,
ill towards
nothing.
her.
We didn't blame her at all. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't have blamed her any, like, even if she wasn't, like, a family member, but even so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I always felt like I needed to be there for people who could say whatever they want, because you can't say whatever you want to your family, and your family can't say whatever they want to you. Your son is protecting you for a reason, but you never know. Like, people may want to say, like, how the hell did you not strap your furniture, you idiot? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
How could you miss that?
It's a good
you
thing
know,
you don't see those thoughts.
right? And so I always felt like I had to, like, I'm not the person to ask that to. So you keep that thought to yourself.
Yeah.
But I know people were thinking it, and so I had to. I felt like I had to protect the people around me some, and yeah.
There's an interesting story on Netflix called Broken. It's a series, and I don't remember how many episodes there are. I only
4.
watched the one about furniture tip-overs.
Yeah.
After she told me about it, and it's very in depth, and it talks about the evolution of furniture. And you had, High Point, North Carolina is the furniture capital of the United States, right? And it's where they're really making amazing, furniture, and from these companies that have been doing it for generation after generation, and then in come these other companies, making it less quality and less this and more flimsy and so forth. And really interesting to watch. Just that one episode. I know, like I said, she said there's 4. I don't even remember what the other 3 are, but all I watched was that one because she told me to. And so it's just an interesting thing to watch. Just another area of what's out there.
The people who recorded Broken are the Parents Against Tip-Overs, and they finished recording right before I was introduced to them. But they basically, Netflix put them in a home together and recorded their stories, and they got to share. But they also went into a lot of detail about specifically IKEA and the practices of that organization, and you can watch it. But I used to have I used to say, before I was working with Parents Against Tip-Overs, IKEA just has a target on their back because they're so big. It's all furniture manufacturers need to take this seriously, not just IKEA. I've definitely been educated more to know that the problems with some of the larger name brands like IKEA. If you know that your car is unsafe, you don't sell it. You don't rebrand it and still sell it. And so it's cost them a lot of money because they rebranded furniture they knew was unsafe, and their recall policies are crap. But we still have a lot of education to do, and I'm happy to. I'm not happy to have the title of death expert, but sometimes that happens. People just think, well, you've been through a lot and you've done a lot, so anytime somebody dies, I get a phone call that says, you probably do too, like so and so just died, and it doesn't have to be a kid, it could be whoever, but generally I'm like, hey, Carrie, can you go talk to this person? They just need to talk to somebody that they don't have to filter their self. I don't like filters.
You did good. You did really good.
Right? I don't think I dropped one
bomb. Because maybe over tacos one day it was like constant.
Over tacos.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
Funk it.
I know.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Oh,
I'm
come on.
Nope.
To be.
My parents are listening. No,
It's not live. It's Memorex.
I know.
You missed me saying over tacos. It was like a.
I know. Well, that might have been margaritas. I don't know.
It might have been margaritas.
I can tell you though, even like our moms, and I'm just speaking for us. I never heard my mother say that word.
I know. My
His
mom wouldn't
mother?
say it at all.
Never.
No.
But there's no other word to describe how this feels some days.
Yeah. I know it.
And I have heard them say it and totally get it. And it's weird. Like, it's like, it doesn't even matter that that's a bad word. Like, but finding a way to describe it fits.
Yeah.
And, man, like, yeah, they turn different leaves on us.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Tell everybody the website again and how they can get in touch with you.
okay. It's BrandonTolsonFoundation.org, and there is a email address and there's a phone number. Either way, people can contact us that way.
On the bottom of the homepage, you can add yourselves to our email list, so you get our monthly newsletter, and we have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page that you can follow. Sorry, Candi.
And Carri, your
Thank you.
website's still active?
Yes.
And what is it
It's
again?
Maddie'sMessage.com.
And Patrice?
Yes, it's Bailey's Heart and Soul.
And .org. And Wendy? Everybody knows yours.
RageAgainstAddiction.org, yeah.
Is there? That was all the websites, right? Okay, I just wanted to make
For
sure.
now.
For now.
For now.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you all for coming on, and we definitely got to do it again. I mean, it's you got to get the word out. I never knew about the tip over stuff. I mean, I've heard you hear it happen here and there, but I didn't realize it was that big. 1 in 11 days.
Yeah.
Is just
too much.
Yeah, yeah, and one's too much.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody listening will look into all that stuff. And
Maddie's Message gives out furniture straps. So if you need furniture straps or you just want them, they're great to put in baby shower gifts. It's great to just have them on hand and give away. I'm happy to provide them.
So, all right, we know September's Recovery Month. Is there a child loss month?
There's different ones. I think October is actually
Sudden Cardiac Arrest Month.
It is?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay.
It's also
Breast cancer.
Yeah, breast cancer.
Yes.
October's everything month.
And
It seems like
July.
Yeah,
There's a
and
date in July that is
bereaved.
There's bereaved
parents.
parents.
that's what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Okay. What I like to do is, and we'll figure out what month it is, but maybe every year record an episode like the month before so we can put it out that month. And if there's any other, because you guys need to go nationwide with this, I think, in all honesty, to get the message across. And if there's any other podcasts you want to get on, let me know. I'll give you contacts for that.
Thank
We've
you.
actually
Be in touch with.
connected with families, one in Ohio, one in California. Just found us.
Texas, Georgia.
I didn't know about that one. Texas, yeah. I knew that one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of big podcasts out there where they talk about this stuff, and it's the word's getting out there more and more, which is good. Hopefully, it'd be nice if we would, none of this would ever happen. We'd never have to put the word out, but
Well, we have
I just
great.
hope we
It's all
can
gonna happen.
grow with that.
yeah,
The thought of a whole lot of states knowing and then not being able to,
sustain it.
like I always thought I would sit down with every single parent
Yeah.
and give them that thing. And now I can't even do that with 130 kids. So the thought, but I know we'll handle it. I know we will. It's
that's why you create little
Yeah.
charters, or what do you?
I got
you
my
have what,
Palomas.
chapters?
I got my
Paloma, we
Palomas.
have chapters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Just something
create
For
little
sure.
chapters.
Yeah.
I've often said
It's
to
in the
Candi,
plan.
we're gonna-
It is in the plan.
We're definitely
Being a big
making
office
sure we're
together.
trying to get to a point where we can scale it, right? It's a very hard business to scale because of what we do, but in order to do that national thing, we're looking at how we can scale it. Talked about it last night in our board meeting, but it's definitely in the works.
Well, we have funeral homes, and we have them on our website.
Yeah.
These are folks that we've interacted for our families, and we've sent them our trifolds and said to them, when you have a family that comes in, call us, right? Let us know, let us help. And that's happened a couple times, not as much as I'd like, but, because we'll find out, somebody's there or whatever.
Right.
But do want to make mention that we are having our first gala event, January 20th of 2023, on Brandon's birthday. We'll be putting out some social media information. That is Candi's new baby, and she is ridiculously excited about it, as she should be. Our bull roast is April 22nd. at Martins Valley Mansion. And then our golf outing is June 8th, 9th? 8th. And that is at Winter's Run in Bel Air. It's our fourth or fifth annual?
Fourth.
Yeah, and it's a really, really fun event.
And if people want to sponsor, they just go to the website. Or call.
Yes. So we have we have some sponsorships set up for each event has different sponsors, but absolutely we do have that for all different levels, and that is an area where we are really growing. We see the support.
Who's the social media person?
Suzanne Forno is our social media director.
Tell her anything you guys post to share it to the Harford County Living group.
Okay.
And then, what's her name?
Suzanne Forno, Forno. She, we met her, Harford County what group, I'm sorry?
Harford County Living.
Okay.
Was her father a dentist?
I don't know.
We had a Dr. Forno down here. That's how.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
So we met her because we have friends who are involved in the Big Orange Foundation, and it's the Wayne Stitchcomb Big Orange Foundation. Wayne passed from melanoma, and they raise money for melanoma research. So they're a private nonprofit, and their Bulrush is actually coming up. Give them a little shout out there. And she does their social media, and so we met her and was good fit. She handles it all. She does it really well. And yeah, she's great.
I'll look for her, and then as soon as she puts a post in there, I'll just give her approval to post all the time, which is something you guys haven't been doing, by the way.
What haven't I been doing?
Posting stuff to the Harford County Living group. I'm
sorry.
just saying.
All right, I will.
Yeah, you want to reach thousands more.
Tonight is the Harford County's Most Beautiful People, and Mia was nominated as well.
Was she really?
Yeah, so
Nice.
I gotta go.
How do we vote?
Well, we got.
Tonight's the ceremony. So.
Well, let's wrap this up so we can get a picture taken real quick. But no, so thank you all, and
Thank you.
Well, yeah, we definitely got to do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming on this episode and telling their stories. And I just want to remind y'all, no matter where you're at, if you unfortunately lose a child, there are support groups out there for you. Contact them. Believe me, talking about it and talking to others, it helps. It helps a lot. To this day, I still talk about our daughter. And I do that. I talk about a lot of things, and I like to get different people on the podcast to tell their stories because I do believe that it helps other people that are listening that are going through the same thing. So again, just reach out. There are groups out there, and there are people out there that will listen that you can talk to. As for a podcast to recommend, I found one called While We're Waiting, Hope After Child Loss. And it's a podcast for bereaved parents by bereaved parents. And I'm going to play the introduction here for you.
Hello, and welcome back to the While We're Waiting, Hope After Child Loss podcast. I'm Jill Sullivan, your host and one of the co-founders of the While We're Waiting ministry. This is a podcast of stories of devastating loss and grief and heartbreak and struggle, and stories of hope and healing and faith, and yes, even joy. Underlying every conversation is the hope we have in Jesus Christ, which makes it possible to not just survive the loss of a child, but to live well while we're waiting to see them again in heaven one day. You can learn more about our ministry and the free bereaved parent retreats we host by visiting our website at www.whilewe'rewaiting.org.
If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you would like to recommend somebody for me to get on the podcast, or if there's a topic you want me to talk about, just go to conversationswithrichbennett.com, click the Be a Guest link, and fill out the form, and I'll get in contact with you, and we'll get everything set up. And while you're there, please subscribe to the podcast as well as the newsletter. And check out all my sponsors and, of course, my co-hosts. Please show your support for all of them as well. Until next time, my name is Rich Bennett. Stay safe, and thank you for joining the conversation.
Are you in need of STI or women's care in Harford County? The Harford County Health Department offers confidential sexual health services such as STI testing and treatment, pregnancy testing, gynecological exams, PrEP HIV preventative, birth control, and emergency contraception. Call 410-612-1779 for an appointment. This message was brought to you by the Harford County Health Department.